So here's how dark I expected Don't Breathe to get. And here's how dark it actually is. Don't Breathe. Don't Breathe is a fun little thriller about 3 Detroit thieves breaking into a man's house in order to rob him blind. However, the man is an Army veteran and a complete shut-in and has actually boarded up every window and door in his house, so escape becomes nigh impossible, especially when he sets to killing them. And the movie does a great job using the space in a relatively small house in order to create a lot of tension as the main characters try to keep the money they stole and get out. I would call this more a thriller than a horror movie, really, because a lot of the fear comes from the tension of watching the protagonists try to get away from the blind man. I was hesitant to really get into the movie at first because it introduces the 3 main characters as douchebags at first. I mean, they're thieves, obviously. The opening scene is them breaking into a wealthy house, and they're stealing what they can. You got Alex stealing the hardware and electronics and things like that. You've got Rocky, who's just stealing all the clothes and trying them on. And then you've got Money, who's clearly the biggest douchebag of them all. He's not even stealing things, he's just peeing on the kitchen floor. And they have a couple of strict rules. Don't steal anything over $10,000 because then it's grand larceny. Don't bring weapons because then the owner is justified in killing them. And the introductory scene, they end by throwing a rock through the glass door, just to throw off the police. I mean, these guys do know what they're doing. They're experienced thieves. That doesn't exactly make them likable. However, when they learn about an old blind man who lives in a secluded neighborhood, they realize that he has enough money stashed away that this could be their final job and then they could escape to California. It doesn't go so well! In the scene from the trailer, Money says that he knows what's in the blind man's basement, hinting that he knows about all the money. The blind man, figuring that his secret is out, kills Money. That is not a spoiler, that's in the trailer. Alex and Rocky then have to do whatever they can in order to get out, revealing an incredible shock moment about halfway through. Don't worry, not spoiling that one, you gotta experience that for yourself. Now, of course, going into this, I was siding with the blind man. I mean, he's just trying to defend his home, it's clearly not the thief's right to steal his money like that, he just wants to be left alone. Perfectly understandable. But then you learn his backstory and I was like, oh my god, you fucking monster. That was horrifying in all the right ways. And Stephen Lang did a great job portraying him. Now, I haven't researched this at all, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen Lang went out, met with a few blind people, and just learned how to emulate how they acted. Because there were a lot of little touches in there that indicated that Lang really could have been a blind man. He gets around by tapping on ledges and door frames and storage shelves, things like that, to make sure he knows where he is. His entire portrayal and the way that the camera followed him and jumped to him every once in a while was very convincing. This was very interesting, very exciting. The way that the movie used him and utilized his character was very comparable to something like SCP or Amnesia. This whole movie would actually make for a pretty good video game. Someone should get on that. While the blind man was clearly the best actor in this movie, the others weren't too bad themselves. Nothing terribly subtle, nothing really original, but enjoyable enough. The only mark I'll say against the movie in that regard would be Rocky's little sister, who I swear must have been related to somebody on the staff. That is the only way she got in. There was no way that kid passed any kind of an audition board. Some of the technicals are actually really impressive too. The cinematography is very fast-paced when it needs to be, but it's also very slow and very fluid when appropriate. The sound effects were spot on, as you'd hope they'd be. And going back to the cellar scene, it looked like they used some sort of a black and white filter over everything, only instead of the usual level of gradients, you had black, gray, dark gray, and some white. I thought it did a great job portraying the idea that the entire basement was under a blackout. So the acting is good, the technicals are good, characters and the setting are fun. I'd say it's pretty good overall, but it's not going to stay with you very long outside of Stephen Lang's performance and that horrible twist. If you like thrillers, check this one out. It's worth your time.